Welcome to Triage Trauma and Drama. This is our third episode, so yay for us. We've made it 3 episodes. In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do to help make our mental health patients or patients of mental health crises feel a little better. The things that work for me as someone who has some mental health conditions, and generally kind of all things surrounding that area. When I started off in EMS, I think that I know that I wanted car accidents and shootings and, I don't know, explosions and stabbings and things of that nature for all of my calls. Because I was young and stupid. I was very young and very, 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 very stupid. As I've grown up, not only in my professional capacity, but also as just a human being, I've figured out that I don't really want to see all that stuff all the time because it breaks me as a human. And that's a lot of human suffering to have to see. Let's just be honest about that fact. Thankfully, most of what you see in EMS is more mundane things. It's your 70% is just urgent, not really an emergency. Same goes for the emergency room. Where I work now, we do see some true, genuine emergencies, but we also do see a lot of things that could be handled at a primary care doctor's office or at an urgent care's office or something like that. But one thing that's been consistent throughout my EMS career is taking care of psych patients or people with mental health issues. And I remember the first few I got, and I remember just rolling my eyes, being like, this is stupid. Why do I have to do this? These people aren't really sick. And that was when I was still not entirely being honest about my own mental health concerns, about the fact that I thought it was normal to have to take 4 Benadryl to go to sleep at night because of my racing thoughts. It's not. Please don't do that. Do not recommend. So I didn't really understand the whole process. Now, as I grew as a person, as a practitioner, I started to understand that a little bit more and really, really, truly see mental health for the kind of crisis it is, especially in this country. We have a health crisis in general in this country, and we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of the crap system that we have that exists, because I don't really want to spiral down that far at 6:30 on a random Tuesday night, because I'd like to have a good rest of the night. So we're not going to do that. But we are going to talk about some of the issues that surround mental health patients and, treatment thereof. I've shared numerous times that I am someone who suffers from PTSD and anxiety and depression. There's nothing to be ashamed of. That's just the way my brain is, right? I take medications, I go to therapy, I do all things I'm supposed to do, and I deal with it. I cope with it pretty well for the most part. There are some times I go a little off the deep end, and then we adjust appropriately. But one of the things that has always struck me in the middle of me having a panic attack is someone trying to tell me to calm down. I will tell you right now, that doesn't work. It doesn't work on me. It may work on some other people, but it for sure as hell doesn't work on me. I know it doesn't work on my husband either. So if I tell him to calm down in the middle of an argument, I'm probably going to get punched. Well, okay, no, he doesn't actually commit spousal abuse, but telling someone to calm down in the middle of a crisis is never going to calm them down. That sounds instantly very dismissive. It sounds very annoying, belittling. It's just not going to work. And here's why it's not going to work. If you're having a panic attack, your brain is stuck in a fight or flight mode, right? It thinks it's under some sort of assault, or it thinks your body's under threat, and then you are not going to you're just all amped up, right? And you can't calm down. If you could calm down, you wouldn't be having the panic attack. So telling someone to calm down is not really going to fix the problem. It's not really going to do anything other than make them incredibly mad at you and make them feel like that you're not listening to them, or not taking their symptoms or what's going on with them seriously. Someone once asked me what my panic attacks feel like. I've had several people ask me that. And the way that I liken them to is, if you're driving your car, maybe you're not paying attention for whatever reason, right? I don't film with the radio, whatever. I know most people probably don't listen to radio anymore. I'm old. I get it. But you're not paying as much attention as you should be. And in the process, you look up and you're like, oh, you almost hit the car in front of you. So you slam your foot on the brake. Now there's that little bit of time, that few seconds there where you feel your heart is racing. You feel like you're going to be sick to your stomach. You just feel a sense of dread. Okay, that lasts 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds till you realize oh, the threat's over. I'm not actually gonna hit the car. I'm actually good. Now, imagine that feeling lasting for a minute, for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes. That's what my panic attacks feel like. So that's the only way I can really, I guess, the way I can really illustrate how that feels to me. And that why in that instance, someone telling me to calm down is not going to calm me down. That's just not going to work. Just like you tell someone to stop crying, that doesn't work. Stop crying. That doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Or to just be happy. Here's the deal. One of the things when I was going through therapy and getting myself figured out, I knew I should be happy. I had a good job, I had a great family, I had amazing friends, but I wasn't happy. And you telling me to just be happy, look on the bright side of life, doesn't do shit. Does jack fucking shit. I mean, there obviously there was a chemical imbalance in my brain. There still technically is. So there were other things I had to work through to be able to get to that place. Us telling our behavioral health patients, our mental patients that are in mental crisis, to stop crying, get over it, calm down, be happy. Those are not constructive things to say at all. They're not. They sound very belittling. As someone who's been in that position, that sounds very belittling. One of the things that we can do that we should be doing is listening. And I don't mean half listening like I do when my husband's telling me what happened to him at work that day. I only half listen to that sometimes. I mean, really actually listening, like really focusing, really giving our patients our full on attention and really letting them tell us what's going on. I know it's hard sometimes, especially if you're triaging, because you just want to get them back to a room, or if you're the primary bedside caregiver, like you've got 10,000 other things to do. You don't want to sit and listen to this person for 10 minutes, complain about their lives. But I promise you, someone who was that person, that'll make a difference. You genuinely actively listening will make a big difference. Now, I'm not saying there are not some people out there that are just very attention seeking. I think that behavior is pretty easy to spot versus someone who's in the actual true mental health crisis. If you have enough experience, I think it's a pretty easy thing to spot. I mean, I can do that, I would say, fairly decently now, hopefully, fingers crossed. Another thing I would say as someone who's been in that position is to be careful of some of the platitudes that we say. I took care of a patient once and he was in crisis, like he was in true mental health crisis. And everyone kept coming in and saying, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. And he got kind of angry and kind of mad and just, he felt like no one was listening. And I was his primary bedside nurse. So I come in there, introduce myself, and he's still crying. I was like, and I just pulled up the stool next to the bed and said, well, like, this is what we're going to do. Here's kind of our process. And can I get you anything? What can I do to make this easier for you? And he goes, everyone keeps telling me I'm going to be okay. And I said, okay. And he goes, I don't feel like I'm going to be okay. And I said, well, you're not going to feel like you're going to be okay right now. I think you will be okay. I think you will get better eventually, but it's not going to be right now. It's not going to be today. It's not going to be 2 days from now. Like, should start feeling better once you get some of these things going, like some therapy and maybe some medications and stuff. But it's okay not to be okay right now. But I think you're going to be okay. I can't tell you when you're going to be okay, but I think you're going to be okay. A couple hours later, I'd come back in to take some set of vitals or talk to him again, and he told me that was the best thing he had heard, because he was tired of hearing, "Oh, everything's all right. It's gonna be okay," things like that. And he just said that he was thankful someone was honest with him and said, "No, I believe you're going to be okay eventually, but right now, I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B." I think sometimes we just want to tell them that, "Oh, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine," and then not really emphasize to them that it's not an instant fix. It's not like a virus or a broken bone or stitches or something that we can fix relatively quickly. Okay, I mean, a broken bone's, but you set it, put it in a cast, whatever, and it gets fixed, right? So I think that's important that we be careful of the platitudes we say, the things that we say the things that we think we should be saying to make them feel better. Sometimes you just have to let them sit and cry. Like, I have a therapist who once told me that I was comfortable in uncomfortable spaces, which I'm not sure if that's I don't know how I should feel about that, being told that I'm comfortable in uncomfortable spaces. But I think it's because I've been in very uncomfortable spaces. I've had to sit with myself in uncomfortable spaces. So I know sometimes all they really need is just someone to physically be there. You don't constantly have to be talking. Sometimes just your presence could be enough. Just it helps. And I know from experience, when I was hospitalized, one of the most amazing things was the CNA that came and sat with me in my room. She introduced herself, but she didn't say anything, and she let me just kind of fall apart. And that was one of the most cathartic experiences I've ever had. And just knowing someone was there, if I wanted to say something, if I wanted to talk, was amazing. But I knew I didn't have to. So that was one of the most, I think it's one of the best experiences I've ever had. It's just knowing that someone was there if I wanted to talk. So when it really gets down to it, dealing with people in mental health crises, with so-called psych patients, things of that nature, it's always going to be hard. It's always going to be taxing for all of us, emotionally, physically, mentally, just like everything we do every day. But these particular patients sometimes seem to take away a lot more of our energy. Just for the reason that we feel like we've got to be very, very present and very, invested in them. And that's the case. Like, we just need to remember that we're going to roll our eyes sometimes at them, because I do the same thing. I'm totally, totally, totally guilty of doing that in certain situations. But as much as we're annoyed sometimes by their presence and by the fact that, oh gosh, I've got to take care of them and it's going to be just a pain in my ass for the next 12 hours, we really need to remember to ourselves that they're in crisis. And you can see the dog back there. Sorry, I tried to keep her upstairs, but she's wandered away. And now she's shaking. That they're in crisis, and it's our job as healthcare providers to help minimize that crisis and make it, as comfortable as possible. We're not always going to have the answers, but we should at least try to remind ourselves, and that's going to be hard some days. I'm not saying it's not. That's going to be very hard some days, that these people do need our help, and that we really need to treat them as if they're just as ill as someone who's with an actual physical illness, with the same urgency and the same respect that we treat someone who's got appendicitis or whatever it is. So anyway, that's our episode for this week. It was a little bit shorter, but I didn't want to go too hard into some stuff. Like I said, we're going to talk about the healthcare system and, our own mental health as providers in a future podcast. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Please keep taking care of yourselves. Please keep taking care of each other, and stay safe out there.